16th United States President Abraham Lincoln and 35th President John F. Kennedy were elected as president 100 years apart in 1860 and 1960, and both men were killed by assassins during their presidencies. Prior to their presidencies, both had served in the House of Representatives. Lincoln was elected in 1846 and Kennedy in 1946. These are just three of the similarities between Lincoln and Kennedy, and many more have been noted. During their presidencies, both men were concerned with civil rights issues. In their family lives, both men married while in their 30s and married to women in their 20s. Both would also suffer the loss of a child while in the White House. Abraham Lincoln's vice president was Southern Democrat Andrew Johnson. Kennedy's vice president, Southern Democrat Lyndon B. Johnson. Andrew Johnson was born in 1808, Lyndon B. Johnson in 1908. The names Andrew Johnson and Lyndon Johnson both contain 13 letters, and both Johnsons would of course take office after their respective president's death. Both Abraham Lincoln and John F. Kennedy were killed on a Friday in front of their wives with a shot to the head. Abraham Lincoln had been warned by his secretary, named Kennedy, not to go to the Ford's Theater. John F. Kennedy had been warned by his secretary, named Lincoln, not to go to Dallas, Texas. Lincoln's assassin was John Wilkes Booth. Kennedy's Lee Harvey Oswald. Both men were known by their three names. Both men were from the South and were born 100 years apart. John Wilkes Booth in 1838 and Lee Harvey Oswald in 1938. Their full names contain 15 letters. John Wilkes Booth shot Abraham Lincoln in a theater. He was later tracked down to a warehouse. Lee Harvey Oswald shot Kennedy from a warehouse and would run to a theater to hide. While both men were apprehended, neither would receive a trial. John Wilkes Booth was killed by Sergeant Boston Corbett, and Lee Harvey Oswald was gunned down by Jack Ruby. Furthermore, Abraham Lincoln was shot in the Ford Theater. John F. Kennedy was shot while riding in a car built by the Ford Motor Company called a Lincoln Continental. Both assassinations were subject to numerous conspiracy theories. The conspiracy theories about Kennedy's assassination need no introduction. But in the 1800s, many had their doubts about the official story on Lincoln's assassination. Some believed that John Wilkes Booth was never actually killed, and that he actually escaped or was allowed to escape. Also, Mary Todd Lincoln, wife of Abraham Lincoln, made comments suggesting that she believed Vice President Andrew Johnson may have been involved in the Lincoln assassination in some way. And ever since the Kennedy assassination, Vice President Lyndon B. Johnson has been heavily suspected of having some involvement. While many note the similarities between John F. Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln, often left out are details which don't match. The dates of the assassinations aren't similar. John F. Kennedy was killed in his first term. Abraham Lincoln was killed in his second term. There are also discrepancies in the death of the assassins. Lee Harvey Oswald was captured and was later shot while in transit. John Wilkes Booth was gunned down while resisting arrest. In regards to the men who killed the assassins, there are very few similarities at all. Both Boston Corbett and Jack Ruby had gone through formal name changes, though for very different reasons. Both men had eccentric behavior, which often got them into fights and conflicts with their peers, and it's believed that both of them may have suffered from mental ailments. However, in all other areas, they were very different. Their birth dates don't line up at all. Jack Ruby was middle-aged at the time of Oswald's killing, while Boston Corbett was young and in the army. Corbett was also known for being extremely moral and religious, and Jack Ruby for being anything but. Historians have also noted that if other presidents, such as Bill Clinton and Grover Cleveland, are paired together, many coincidences exist. In regards to Lincoln and Kennedy, not all of the similarities noted are even true. Though John F. Kennedy did have a secretary named Lincoln, who warned him not to go to Dallas, Abraham Lincoln never had a secretary named Kennedy. It's also not true that John Wilkes Booth was found hiding in a warehouse. When he was apprehended and killed by the Army, he was inside a barn, though it is true that Lee Harvey Oswald was found in a theater. It's often stated that both assassins were from the South, but during the Civil War, Maryland, John Wilkes Booth's home state, was actually a border state and was technically in the Union. The assassins' years of birth aren't 100 years apart. Lee Harvey Oswald was born in 1938 and Booth in 1839. Another seeming coincidence between the assassins is that at the time of the assassinations, both men were in their 20s. However, this is also true of William McKinley's assassin, Leon Chokel's. In fact, there is crossover among Abraham Lincoln, John F. Kennedy, and the two other assassinated presidents, James A. Garfield and William McKinley. William McKinley was also shot on a Friday. Garfield was also deeply concerned with civil rights, so much so that he mentioned it in his inaugural address. Like Lyndon B. Johnson, Vice President Chester A. Arthur was referred to with his middle initial. Also like the two Johnsons, Chester A. Arthur was suspected of being complicit in James A. Garfield's assassination. Historians believe the similarities between Lincoln and Kennedy to be nothing more than coincidence.